it's Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for Sunday, May 22nd. So we do have the moon moving out of Aquarian energy and into Pisces energy. We will have the moon go void, of course, around 3:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be locking into Piscean energy 11:50 a.m. So anytime that we're moving out of this Aquarian energy and into Pisces energy, we get a little bit dreamy, we get a little bit detached from reality, we kind of move inward. It can get very overwhelming with our thoughts, with our emotions. Hopefully we will gain a lot of intuitive insight and gain a little bit of clarity on our emotions and on our thoughts and the plans that we should be making and moving forward. However, sometimes it can be a little bit too much. We can definitely just want to check out of reality, kind of cozy up in bed with a book, get lost in dreamland. And for many of us, that might be the thing to do. We are moving towards the last quarter moon in Pisces later on this afternoon, which is always a little bit of a tension point, a little bit of a crisis point in consciousness. Don't let that scare you, though. This is where we have aha moments, where we have revelations, where we realize the system, the cycle, the process that we've just had to go through, especially backtracking through the eclipse energy with the new moon, with the full moon, and preparing for, again, the new moon in Gemini towards the end of this month. So we are going to feel that shift, moving out of our head space, moving into our heart space. We are going to get a little bit mystified, if you will. We can definitely get lost in delusions if we're not careful. But overall, this should be a release. This should be a purge. This should be an aha moment where we shift the energy in our heart space, in our head space, where we clear certain cycles out and, of course, prepare to move forward. That is the name of the game. However, today we also have Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information and communication, moving back into Taurus energy. This is going to be a little bit interesting. We're going to feel our mental plane kind of get a little bit heavier, a little bit slow, a little bit weighted. I am going to recommend that you listen to the astro forecast that I put out for this particular event and the ascension forecast for the week. If you haven't listened to that as of right now, that would be helpful for you to dive into as well. So there are 12 different aspects taking place here today, and 9 of them involve our moon. While the moon is still in Aquarian energy, we are bumping into Neptune in probably not the nicest way. But what this is going to do for us is this is going to put us in a position to see things differently. We have information, we have details that are just popping out of the woodwork in our physical realities, in our mental plane, that totally change the game on what it is that we are going to do from here. Keep in mind, we're in a retrograde still, so there's a lot of reflection and review that needs to continue in order for us to gain wisdom and knowledge, perspective and insight on how it is that we're going to move forward. This particular aspect is kind of setting us up for us to kind of move inward and kind of try to align with our higher self and really listen to our intuition about some of the situations that are coming to the surface for our acknowledgement, for us to process, for us to integrate, so that we can actually use that information, knowledge, insight, realization to build a framework on what it is that we're actually going to be doing moving forward. Right before the moon goes void, of course, the moon is going to bump into Saturn. Saturn, the Lord of Karma, ruling over roles and responsibilities in Aquarian energy, trying to show us a vision, a dream, a goal that we have for ourselves in a futuristic type of sense, in order for us to break down what it is that we can be doing in the here and now to start kind of aligning with that dream and with that vision. Now, the moon in Aquarius does have us emotionally detached so that we can act as the observer and kind of gain a bigger, broader perspective on why certain things are happening, why things had to transpire in the way that we did, because of course we're moving into this new cycle where new soul contracts, new karmic lessons are now being initiated and beginning. So the moon bumping into Saturn in this way is likely going to illuminate for us where it is that we see blockages, where we see challenges, where we see like we're being held back. Maybe we're blocking our own blessings. Maybe we're refusing to let go of some of the attachments that have come to our attention, especially under the eclipse energy, that are essentially creating an unalignment with our new mission, our new purpose, our new path in moving forward. By the time the moon goes void, takes its time, moving from Aquarian energy into Pisces energy, we have a couple of aspects that it's going to make with both Mars and Pluto before actually locking into that Piscean energy. So the moon is in Aquarius, but it's void, which means that we're kind of shaky, we're unstable, we're uncertain. What we were sure about, now we're not sure about. This is not a time to make any decisions, to commit to anything. Everything is kind of questionable while the moon is void, of course. So the moon in Aquarius bumping into both Mars, who is in Pisces, and Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn. This is definitely going to highlight for us basically what it is we want to do. Mars, of course, in Pisces is trying to wrap up his particular time, his particular cycle in Pisces energy, preparing for him to move into his place of power on the 24th. But in Pisces energy, he's moving inward. He has to figure out what he is actually like desiring at this time, what is calling to him, where his motivations are. He's looking for that intuitive gut feeling, that inspiration for us to actually hold on to a vision and a dream in order to inspire us to fight the good fight, to really not let any of these blockages and challenges hold us back from getting to where it is that we want to be. Now, this can also create some anger and frustration in us because things aren't moving fast enough. And then we bump into Pluto, who is retrograde in Capricorn, trying to kind of show us where in the past we've given our power away, where we made other people the starring role of our own movies, and where it is that we need to take that power back. This is about gaining positions of power and authority in our own lives. This is about looking back and reflecting, again, retrograde, on certain situations where we failed ourselves. We failed to stand up for ourselves, to advocate for ourselves, to make ourselves the priority. And the moon in Aquarius is like trying to show us from an observer mentality why we did that. And it comes down to self-worth and self-love. Then at 11:57, just 7 minutes after we lock into the moon in Pisces, the moon in Pisces is going to semi-square Chiron, the wounded healer, who is in Aries energy, really highlighting for us the pain, the suffering, the change, the blow, the wound to our ego identity. Again, many of us have been through hardships, learning the hard way where it is that we have to let go of certain elements of ourselves, of our lives, of our circumstances, of our relationships that are no longer supporting the kind of vision, the kind of energy, the kind of vibration and frequency that we're currently harnessing in our physical realms, the dream and the vision that we're looking to manifest. There's a huge unalignment happening from where it is that we've been to where it is that we want to be. So through this hardship, it has highlighted for us where it is that the wounds to our ego, our identity have now changed, have now been illuminated in order for us to heal that. Of course, when we go through dramatic circumstances in our life, especially where loss is concerned, we question, who are we without this job, without this house, without this person, without this relationship, without this title, this routine? Anything that has been stripped away from you has definitely influenced your ego, your identity, who it is that you now are. With the moon in Pisces, we do kind of have to get lost in the dream, in the imaginary land, in the visual of what it is that we want for ourselves moving forward, to figure out, how it is that we're going to heal some of the wounds that are alive and well in us in order to be in alignment to actually manifest the elements that we're looking to bring to life. The moon will square Mercury. Mercury, of course, retrograde in Gemini energy at this particular point, just a couple of hours away from backtracking and moving into this Taurus energy. And Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane in Gemini energy, has us not only reflecting over past events, not only reviewing how some of these situations popped off and transpired, but has us debating two very extreme choices, decisions, options, and paths. Now, the moon, being our emotions, our unconscious self, very much attached to the old. And of course, in Pisces energy, we're looking to wrap this cycle up so that we can begin and have a fresh start. Mercury, being at this very pivotal point, a square is a tension point. So there is a disconnect between our heart and our head. Our heart space is kind of detached from reality altogether because our physical circumstances aren't quite as fun as we would wish them to be at this particular point in time. Mercury, of course, ruler of the mental plane, is kind of confused. We just had this aspect where the sun and Mercury met up at this 0 degree because we are fresh into Gemini season. And this was a huge illumination on where we have to learn from our past mistakes, our past experiences, past situations, where we have to reflect back, review those moments in time in order for us to pluck out the silver linings, to pluck out the wisdom, to pluck out the knowledge that we're going to use in the here and now so that we're not repeating past patterns and behaviors. But this tension point, this conflict is going to illuminate for us how far the distance is between our heart and our head being on the same page. This is likely going to create a little bit of confusion. Be careful that you're not projecting your confusion, your instability onto other people, because of course, Mercury rules over how we express ourselves and communicate at this time. And there's a lot of delusion with the moon in Pisces. So 2:43 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the moon squaring the sun. This gives us our last quarter moon in Pisces. A square, I want you to think a boxing ring. I want you to think tension. I want you to think conflict. Now, is it good to be in tension and conflict? Well, it doesn't feel very good. But one thing that we know to be true is that it illuminates for us what needs our attention the most, where change and transformation is needed the most. So you have the moon in Pisces, that is our emotions, our unconscious self, past patterns and behaviors, very connected to the old part of us. You have the sun in Gemini now, illuminating for us new ways of doing things, new ways of opening up, understanding, processing information, debating the pros and cons, new ways of expressing ourselves. And a square is like our will, our focus, our attention from the sun going head to head with our inner thoughts, our inner feelings from the moon. And this kind of highlights for us where we have to detach from old thoughts, old feelings, old patterns, old behaviors, and where it is that we have to try our hardest to embody the new qualities and characteristics that the sun is illuminating for us. And of course, being in Gemini energy, this is illuminating, opening up our minds to new skill sets, new ways of understanding, new ways of communicating, new ways of expressing ourselves. So anytime we have the last quarter moon phase, this is like an aha moment, a revelation, where the old meets the new. And in this overlap between the old and the new, we find our present selves really having a tug of war between letting certain aspects of our past go in order to embody the new elements that are being revealed to us in the present moment and in a futuristic sense, so that we can get to work in building the new elements in our life that we're looking to manifest. The moon is going to bump into Jupiter in not the nicest way. And let me tell you, this will likely manifest as a situation in our physical realms that we do not have control over. This is a situation that will allow us an opportunity to not only see where it is that we're being tested in life, but where it is that we now have an opportunity to handle things in a different way so that we can grow, we can expand our consciousness, expand our opportunities, where it is that we can shine a brand new light on where it is that we want to start fresh. The moon in Pisces, although very intuitive, although very connected to the metaphysical realm, to our dreams, to our creativity, Jupiter over here in Aries wants nothing to do with the past, wants to just start fresh, wants to initiate a brand new beginning, wants to rise to the occasion, to the challenge, to the obstacles that we're currently facing and slash through them so that we can kind of detach from all the things that have been, just kind of holding us in a holding pattern in that state of paralysis so that we can get started on building something new. So Jupiter magnifies everything. He turns the volume up on everything. And because the moon in Pisces is so hypersensitive anyways, this situation that pops off in our physical realities that we don't have control over can likely put us in a situation where we don't even want to deal with it. We don't want to deal with life. We just want to, just put the rose-colored glasses on, pretend it's not happening, and delude ourselves until this energy passes. Now, is that the right thing to do? Not so much. We do have to kind of face reality at this time, running away from the truth, running away from all the things that are popping off in our physical circumstances, trying to show us the reality of the situation instead of what it is that we wish it to be. That means that we're further kind of pushing our progress, this beginning, this new chapter, even further away from us. It would be advisable to kind of handle and tackle the situations that are popping off in our physical realms head on, because that's what Jupiter in Aries wants to do. He wants to just deal with it now, act now, deal with the repercussions later. We want to start fresh. We want to cut the cord from the past. But emotionally speaking, that moon in Pisces has us very connected to old issues, old memories, old ways, old everything that many of us are having a hard time cutting the cord with and actually moving on. Mercury will semi-square Chiron. This is definitely going to feed off of the earlier situation popping off and put us in a situation where we're likely focused on the negative. Likely focused on the negative situation, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings. Again, we might be put in a position to have to communicate our thoughts and feelings, which likely will not go well. We're in a retrograde, misunderstandings, miscommunications are at an all-time high. But Mercury and Chiron together, especially in a semi-square, which is a little bit of a conflict and a tension point, is likely going to show us where it is that we're stuck in the past, especially where our focus is stuck in the past, our narrative, our understanding, our perspective, because that's very mercurial energy. And we have to consider the fact that we are about to move back into Taurus energy. So we're at the very beginning of this Gemini energy at this particular point, which means that we're very divided. We're very polarized. There's a lot of conflict going on in our headspace. And because Chiron is the wounded healer showing us our wounds, we have to kind of lean all the way into whatever triggers and activations have taken place in our physical realm in order for us to kind of get a grip on what we're being shown as far as reality goes. Because again, many of us would prefer to live in La La Land and paint our reality in a different color than what it is that is actually real and true. Mars at this time sextiles Pluto. This is going to be a positive aspect for us to kind of use the earlier situation of anger and frustration and confusion and, all the things that are out of our control that don't feel good, to recognize what it is that we have to focus on as far as the good goes. Now, Mars is the god of war, and he rules over our physical energy, our drive, our passion, our desires, even our anger. He's in Pisces energy, wrapping up the life lessons in this Piscean energy as he prepares to take his place of power, the throne, in Aries energy on the 24th. Pluto, the god of transformation, let's say, likes to show us, because he's retrograde in Capricorn, where there's a new power, a new authority, really kind of emerging within us. Now, these two sextiling means that they're blending their energies together. And what we get out of this is a strong ability to focus on what it is we actually want. Now, we're using the negative situation that popped off earlier as an indicator on what it is that we don't want. And sometimes in order to figure out what it is that we do want, we need situations to show us what it is that we do not want to experience, to stand for any longer. So Mars and Pluto are coming together, and they're giving us a great power, a great motivation, a great inspiration to focus on what it is that we want, to identify, to define what it is that we want. We want to be very clear on our desires, on our goals. We have our head in the game, so to speak. We are looking to strategize. We are looking to come up with a plan. And because sometimes anger and aggression is the most powerful force for change and transformation, we're using the earlier situation that was out of our control that kind of triggered some negative thoughts, negative feelings within us as a catalyst, as an inspiration, and as a motivation to bust free from the things that we do not want any longer, that we do not want to feel, we don't want to think about, we don't want to focus on, we don't want to experience. Those elements are the strongest emotions in order to create the change, the transformation that we so desperately need at this point in time. The moon will go ahead and bump into Uranus in a very positive way. Uranus is the great awakener. It downloads us with an aha moment, a perspective, insight, clarity that we've just been craving. Really kind of floating off of Mars and Pluto's kind of urgency to focus on the goals, to define the pattern, to define the strategy, define the path. The moon now bumping into this Uranian energy, who of course is in Taurus energy, shaking up our physical realms, showing us where the routine that we have in our lives, the way that we take care of ourselves, our relationship matters, our money matters, are either unstable and not strong enough to house the dreams that we have and that we want to create moving forward, or show us where they need a little bit of work in order to strengthen them to the point to actually be a strong enough foundation for us to move forward. So this is a shakeup. This is like a moment of brilliance. This is a moment of insight. This is like a download from the cosmos. If you listen to the ascension forecast, you know that we're under the influence of the Palladian star system. We are receiving huge amounts of light codes, huge amounts of guidance at this time. And the moon in Pisces, which is very connected to our higher selves and our intuition, and the great awakener, Uranus himself, is shocking us, is showing a true shift in our perspective and in our heart space so that we can open up our mind, we can adapt a little bit more easily, and really ride off of this aggressive energy that we just got from Mars and Pluto to look forward, to come up with a plan, to act in a deliberate way instead of just acting for the sake of acting and not really thinking things through. 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Mercury moving back into Taurus at a 29 degree. Again, if you have not listened to the astro forecast that I put out for this, I'm going to recommend that you do so. Mercury moving back into Taurus energy helps us put the blinders on and truly focus on the thoughts, the ideas, the situations, all the information, all the details that have really thrown a wrench into our plans, and get practical and logical, down to earth in creating the right kind of calculated strategy that's going to help us bring some of these elements to life. Now, granted, Mercury is retrograde, so there is an element of having to look back all the way to the beginning of April when Mercury first moved into Taurus and really kind of review all that has transpired through the eclipse portal, through this retrograde, through Pluto going retrograde, through the disruptions, through the chaos, through the craziness, through the wild card events that have been thrown at us, so that we can kind of sort through that information. We can figure out why it happened, what we're supposed to do with it, and again, put those blinders on in order to focus on what needs to be done, on what needs to be created, on what we need to clean up from the past to provide us a clean slate for us to actually tie up those loose ends and begin our path in moving forward.